This is another episode. How to do things.
How to do things. Hey class, this is Hey class, this is Mr. Biederman. Boom. This is a terrible script. Terrible script. Who wrote this? Will the real Mr. Biederman please stand up?
Wait till you edit it.
Wait, am I gonna pay for this?
What's up, guys? Here to talk to you about basic composition. Basic composition, there are so many things you could possibly learn about basic composition, and I'm only going to talk to you about a few this time. But what I want to get across to you is that basic composition, it's like a hole-in-one.
Hey, Grandma, right here.
Over here.
Oh, you can do that.
The way that I want you guys to think about photography is like painting a photograph. So in art, we have to be very, very intentional about every single detail that we put into our composition. Like this horizon line, I need to figure out where am I going to put that tree line? Where am I going to put these awesome diagonal lines or leading lines that are pushing my eye through the composition into the subject? Now, when it comes to painting or sculpting or illustration or realistically any other kind of art, being intentional becomes very easy because you physically have to paint the tree in the composition. You physically have to paint the railing that you are going to put into your composition. You physically have to paint the model into your composition. But in photography, you have to be able to see. Now, I know what you're thinking, Mr. Biederman. We've been seeing our entire lives. How can you tell me that I need to see the world that I've been living in my entire life? Well, you have been living in this world, 100%. But I don't believe that you have been truly seeing everything in this world. And that might not be true for some of you. Sweet, rad, awesome. But even those of you that believe you can see, there's still more to see. So that's what I plan to hopefully teach you guys throughout this course, to learn how to see. Because when you can see, you can photograph. When you can see, you can appreciate how incredibly amazing this world is. You can see all the little nuances and the way things line up. And all of a sudden you're going to look at the clouds and be like, man, that is an awesome way that those clouds are swirling up against the horizon line. And then this tree, bam, over there. Man, it's gorgeous. Whereas before this class, maybe you just walked by. And maybe you're just like, it's a nice day out. There's a difference. So one of my goals as a teacher in general is not to teach art. No. I don't hope to make a ton of artists in this world. I hope for you guys to live a more artful life. I hope that you guys will be able to walk around and appreciate the beauty. I hope that you guys will be leaders, creative problem solvers. I hope that you guys will be able to tackle something even if it feels very, very overwhelming, and persevere through it. That's what I teach. I teach life. Art is my medium. Art is the world that I live in. So, here we go. Basic composition. So, to start it off, I do want to read, hey, get off your phone. Oh, wait, that's me. In the computer screen. Looking at myself on the phone. Awkward. Alright. I do want to read you something that my Photography 101 teacher, there we go, now you can see me, that my Photography 101 teacher said to me in the very first class that I taught. Photography is an art. So to understand photography, you must first understand art. As artists, we have to develop an incredible sense of observation and learn to look at the world through an artistic eye. Imagine as if you're walking around only looking through the viewfinder of your camera. In this way, everything you are looking at is a photograph. Constantly look at and interpret composition, balance, proportions, perspectives, and then creative problem solve and make it better. You will begin to train your eye to observe every detail of the life surrounding you. When you walk into a room, you will notice the color of the carpet, couch, and chair combination. You will observe how you feel when you truly look at the world around you. What catches your eye first? You will understand that art is everywhere, and we can inspire inspiration from anything. You are artists, and the world is your canvas. Alright, so these words, they were totally profound and obscure, and to be real with you guys, I didn't know half of the vocabulary that he was talking to me about. Proportion, perspective, I don't know anything about that. I can tell you everything about differential equations. I can tell you everything about all these different theories in physics. I can tell you about water dynamics. I don't know what proportion is. And I knew that I was going to learn about aperture and shutter speed and ISO and depth of field and all this stuff because that was in the description. I didn't know what it was talking about, so I'm like, okay. Whatever. Which is a bad word. Not a good word to say. But then something happened. Something happened as I was listening to this guy talking to me about these profound ideas of how to look at the world that I've been living in for the last 20-something years of my life. Well, like I said, something happened that day, and something happened to where legitimately I walked out of that class, I went straight over to admissions, and I dropped out of engineering. And I had no idea what I was going to do with my life. But I did know I was going to do something in the arts. Here I am, teaching art. To you guys! Yo, what? Who would have known? Which brings me back, after that long tangent, to painting a photograph. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that. You're good. We're all sharing the same space. Which brings me back to painting a photograph. So, when we approach a photograph, we need to be aware of every single thing within our composition. So there's all these rules and formulas that we can actually follow to help elevate our art into something that we didn't even know existed. Okay? Society in general thinks that art is just this do whatever you want, whimsical, just anybody can do it. It's not really the case at all. At all. Art is very difficult. art is very challenging. Art pushes your brain into a new capacity which most people will never be able to understand. So I think that you guys have probably gathered that I do enjoy possibly breaking rules, pushing boundaries, taking risks. I love taking risks. I love failing. I love failing because then I know just how far I've gone. And I know exactly just how far I can go the next time. So my philosophy on breaking rules is, in order to truly break the rules, you have to know what the rules are and understand what those rules are so you can break them. So, through this whole course of photography, we are going to learn what those rules are. And I do encourage you to break those rules. However, you need to be able to justify how you have broken those rules. And in order to justify those rules, you have to prove that you understand those rules first. Alright, so one of the first rules of photography is where to crop a person. Now let me get into frame perfectly here. This is a terrible crop. Terrible crop. Okay? I've cropped at a joint. Now, in terms of cropping a person or an animal or a being in general, joints are bad. So, don't crop at a joint. Simple as that. Cropping. I don't know if you guys know this, and if you do, awesome, super rad, triumph, woohoo! If you don't, that's totally fine too. Cropping is where you decide to make your picture. Where you decide to cut off things. Where I have decided to cut off this railing and the subject or the model in this composition. So when it comes to cropping a human or cropping an animal or anything else that is living, don't crop at a joint. And you can think of this, right? Ready for it? Here goes some embarrassment. Head, shoulders, knees and toes. Knees and toes. Right? Well, it goes beyond that. So, head, neckline, armpits, hips, knees, ankles. If you have somebody doing like a ballerina thing or jumping or whatever, toes, fingers, like right here, ready for it? Good, 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 bad, 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 even worse. That is terrible. Hey, but that's not too bad. All right? So, in terms of being intentional, what I mean by that is that nothing is random. Nothing should be unconsidered. Every single thing that you have in your composition should be thought about and should heighten or add to your concept. I personally believe, and this is arguable, I personally believe that art without a concept has no purpose. Art without a concept is meaningless because the concept is the meaning. And in that same sense, on that same page, you need to find this personal connection with your art. Because if you're doing art without any kind of connection, then again, what's the point? Wow, my R's look very dark. So I just tried to move around to see if I could get some better lighting, because basically it looks like I'm wearing sunglasses without sunglasses. But in order to do that, I would have to go inside, and I'd rather not go inside. So you're just gonna have to deal with me with these raccoon eyes. Anyway, like I was saying, everything needs to be considered. If there is an airplane in your photograph in the sky, that airplane needs to be there for a reason. If there is somebody walking in the background, that person needs to be there for a reason. If there are telephone lines in your composition, they should do something to the composition. And telephone lines, for example, are very, very difficult to avoid, especially when we're shooting anything inside of a city or township. But if you're going to have to include a power line, at least make it a leading line, which we will learn about later. Don't worry, it's all good. Yeah, leading lines, they're awesome. Does anybody else feel weird just talking into the screen? Not used to it. I grew up with dial-up. You know, that's what happened every time we tried to connect to the internet for like 5 minutes. Anyway, being intentional is, just like I said before, painting a photograph. You have to be aware of everything inside of it. If you're shooting something at a parking lot and you want it to be an empty parking lot and there's a car in the background, then wait for that car to move, or position yourself someplace else that car is not in the frame. Be intentional on the props inside of your composition. Be intentional on the clothing. Be intentional on the lighting. For example, if I was not trying to get the person to look like they have these hollow eyes or sunglasses that don't actually exist, because look, I'm not wearing any sunglasses, then I would not choose the lighting that I am presently in. Be intentional on the background. Be intentional on the foreground. Be intentional on the way that your model is posing. Be intentional on the angles between your objects, or that the way that you are presenting your material. So, for example, if I were to take a picture of homelessness, and my concept was I wanted to highlight how intense and how much homelessness is suffering on the person, and how much that homelessness is overlooked by general society. Well, if I wanted to do that, would it be a better picture if I chose a model holding a sign by a stop sign saying, "Please help"? Or would it be more impactful if I took the scene at night and it's raining and it's obviously cold, and there is a homeless person that is trying to cover up with a piece of cardboard, shielding themselves from the rain, trying to keep warm with way too few articles of clothing, and there's all these businessmen and women and whatever walking by with umbrellas and coats, and they're just completely ignoring this person in a dark alley filled with garbage, and it looks disgusting in the background, but the foreground is this business type of landscape. To me, that would feel a lot more impactful of an image than just the person holding a sign when it comes to concept. And again, that concept is your meaning. That concept is the entire reason that you are taking a photograph. And that concept can be beauty. So in a philosophical sense, that means aesthetic. Aesthetic is what we personally find beautiful. So your concept, there is nothing wrong with your concept if it is truly just to capture beauty. But that's still a meaning. Don't just go out and take a photograph or see a cool scene and then take a photograph without thinking of where am I going to place myself within that scene and what's happening everywhere else around me. Be intentional. Be purposeful. Be creative. And be you. Word! Still awkward.